Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I'm one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Cold, Joe's first standalone, and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. And on this episode, we review The Connoisseur, Vile Jelly, and Other People's Scores. So, let's get started. As usual, folks, you know the deal. We must get on our knees and thank you, the fans, the people, all 32 and a half of you, all of you. We want to thank you all, and just remind you to follow us on the social medias and the YouTubes. By the time this will come out, this will come out on Friday. So yesterday, Thursday, you will have seen a Reddit post by yours truly. I'm not on Reddit a lot, but I will have made that post that I initially talked about the last episode. So, I keep my promises, but they're a bit on a time delay, let's just say. I'm the dad that says I'm going to go buy cigarettes, but I do come back just like 10 years later. So.
I'm not sure that's better, Jeff.
Well, it's the thought that counts, in my opinion.
Here on the Circle of the World podcast, we fulfill our promises eventually.
You could say we always circle back.
I hate you. All right, so we'll move on. Since we got 3 chapters for you, but only 2 additional segments, we are going to start off with our first chapter read-through. And this one is The Connoisseur. So we start off with the perspective of our homegirl, Monza. She's doing great. She's living life. She's living large. Oh, wrong chapter. She's not. She's not happy at all. She's at the table. I believe is it dinner or is it breakfast?
Unclear.
It could be either with Celia.
It could be lunch.
It could be anything. I think that's just on the table all the time.
It could be tea.
It could be second breakfasts. So yes, it's one of those. It's a mealtime during the day, and it's her, Grand Duke Salier, and the infamous Nokomo Casca, and they're chilling, but Monza is not doing well. And I'm mistaken. We are not looking at this from the perspective of Monza. We are looking at this from the perspective of Nokomo Casca. And we know this because he's looking directly at Monza, and one of the first things he notices when he sees her is she does not look well. Her lips are split, her face is ashen, swollen, bruised. He felt bad for her, but then he thought about, Shivers. He goes,
You got off easy.
Could be worse. It could be worse for her. And
Absolutely.
And because he thought about Shivers, the next series of minute events is pretty telling. He reaches out with his fork to spear a sausage, and then because how sausages, they have those grill marks, he thinks of Shivers' face where it has that
awful burns on his face.
Yeah, and he goes, never mind. And he goes for a hard-boiled egg, but then he goes, wait a minute, it looks like an eye. never mind. So then he just drinks.
I think this is one of those sequences that you cannot how can you make that into a film?
Oh, you can. Absolutely can. Absolutely.
If you do like weird horror shit, like
no, you can. Here's how you do it.
A Sam Raimi film or something.
But that's
Sam Raimi.
Well,
you could do this. Here's how you do it. Right? You have the torture scene. They save. Monza gets saved, whatever, and then literally, like the last shot you have is of Shivers' face, and then you cut to Nokomo's the camera shooting on his plate. And then he looks at the sausage, and you just hear the sizzling. Like you carry the sound of the sizzling of Shivers' face over into that scene.
You can even show the side of his face slowly turn into the meat.
Yes. And then he goes to the hard-boiled egg, and then because he's gonna look at it, he goes, it's very telling. It's right in it's fresh in your mind. Yes, that will work. It would definitely work, I think.
Excellent.
So he goes back. What was that?
Continue.
Thank you. And so he, decides to just content himself with some tea, wishing it was really brandy. A man after my own heart. Meanwhile, Grand Duke Sally Forth, is reminiscing on past glories. Glories that I don't think actually really have anything to do with him, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he does start out talking about, like, you know, banquets that we have held in this hall. It's always
banquets. Mm-hmm.
Of course, he starts off by, well, he's been talking for some time, but like the idea that Casca starts listening and he hears him start talking whenever he starts talking about hosting food parties.
He loves his food parties. So he thinks about the times where, they had all the other great men and women of Styria. Rogon, Cantane, Sartorius, even Orso himself. Yesterday's victory is tomorrow's defeat. Yesterday's hero is tomorrow's villain. Blah, blah, blah. So he's making some jokes, but Monza's not smiling or laughing. Nakomo's not really either, because even though he's pretty good at being charming and engaging and laughing, maybe even when he doesn't think something's funny, he's just not really about it right now.
I think there's something really kind of sad about the way that Celia is to presented this facade here. Like he's like, it's like he's entertaining guests in like a golden age, and he's got all this food out, and he's talking about his art, and it's like, mate, you're gonna die in like a week if you're lucky.
Yeah, very true. Yeah. If you're a pedantic person like me, it is breakfast. Just found that out. And Nakomo, I'm only gonna bring this up because we're gonna see it come into play later. But Celier's drinking his drink, his gin and juice, and turns out when Nakomo asks him, like, "Hey, what is that you're drinking there? It doesn't really look like tea." The Duke says, "Well, it's goat's milk. It's a little sour, but wonderful for the digestion." And that's the only bit we get of that. But trust me, it'll be big.
Sorry, Jeff. That's the best line for Pacey's narration. It's wonderful with the digestion.
He does say it like that. So funny. But I see what you mean, Jeff. He mentions the goats thing. Casca, let's just say Casca is very good at taking sound advice from people who may not seem sound.
Right, true. It'll come into play. And Duke Salier understands that they're not really going to do any much more at the breakfast table in terms of, making jokes or whatever. So he's like, let's take some exercise. Let's walk my grounds. Let's look at what my palace beholds. And he asks Monza as they're walking, he goes, "How is your friend, your northerner friend?" She goes, "Still in a lot of pain.
Still looks like the sausage on the table."
Hey, looks like a griddle, boy. And I like how Grand Duke goes, "Yes, well, terrible business, such as war. Captain Langrier tells me, by the way, that there's 7 of you. Anywho, so the blonde lady that we took with you as well, who apparently has
the child face.
The child's face. I'm like, what is going on here?
I think there's this idea that we see over and over again, like, and we'll see Monza says something about it here in a bit, but he says over and over again, like, such as politics, such as war, such as blah, blah, blah. Like he knows so much shit about everything, but like he's completely detached. Like I like Celia like a lot. Like he's such a unique character, but he is completely out of perspective. Like it's like he knows things, but he doesn't actually understand things. And I think that's what they keep showing you. You're like, oh, the girl with the child face. It's like he's like, I don't even think he's being a pervert. I feel like he's that guy. I feel like he's trying to be super safe and be like, oh, she's like a girl, but like, oh, I'm not attracted to that because she's got like a child face. You know what I mean? Like he just doesn't know how old she is, so he's just gonna say, she looks like a child, I guess.
And it's weird because he says the blonde woman with the child's face, and it's just like those are incongruencies right there, my guy. Anyway, and then he goes, and by the way, we have your other guy. He must have came with Casca, even though Vittori didn't mention him. before, but friendly. He goes, the quiet one who brought the Talinese uniforms and has apparently been counting every item in my larder since the crack of dawn this morning.
Oh, just again, consistency from friendly though.
Oh,
He knows what the man knows what he likes, you know.
can you just
He
imagine?
likes counting stuff.
Can you imagine like the Duke's like captains, his, chief torturers? They just got done sizzling Shiver's face, right? They walk into a room and they just see Shiver's friendly going 575, 576, and they go, "What the fuck is this? Who is this guy in a Talinese uniform counting our sticks of butter?"
Oh my god!
And then he notices like, well, but then there's two more of your group at large, the poisoner and torturer, and they joke about they don't. I don't say they joke, but they assume that if they had any sense, they'll be halfway out of Viscerine or out of Styria at least.
But in fact, they are planning on a stupidly daring break-in right now.
Listen, you gotta give both of them credit. You do, but we'll get to them.
I just love the fact that in any other fantasy novel, it'll be like, oh yeah, there's going to be immense resistance to this super secret break-in that we're going to do, and they just kind of pull it off with no hitch. And it's just like, yeah, we're on the roof
spoilers,
now.
No spoilers, but I hear you.
No, that is no spoilers, but you
know. So they keep walking, right? And then Celia talks about like, oh, you've been abandoned? Well, I know the feeling. My allies have abandoned me. My soldiers, my people. I am distraught. My sole remaining comfort is my paintings. And he looks at his collection of paintings. Ganmarks, the crown jewel, General Ganmark. What was that, George?
A true artiste.
Uh-huh. How so?
He's just
how so?
Because he's obsessed with this fucking art. Like this is one of those philosopher kings that they used to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Where this guy is just completely obsessed with theory and how to do things right, but he's just a complete fuck up on every. No, he's not good at anything at all.
Yeah, that's true though. Like Celia obviously like I said, like he knows a lot of things, and like his art collection is by all records and counts the best in the circle of the world, and he knows like all the history behind each art piece, but like what the fuck does that matter whenever somebody's trying to siege you out? Like it just is irrelevant.
Exactly. And it's just like Ganmark says as well, like he got it off somebody else, and it's just like this endless cycle of fucking burning.
Yeah, well, like Celia goes through each room, right? Like if we see him go through, he'd be like, "Oh, this is the kings of Midderland." Like he's got like these sections off like it's an art gallery, and obviously he didn't like commission any of those. He got them from other people.
More than likely through force.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting how each time they go through an area, there's like all these little, like Celia is simultaneously like having a conversation with Monza, and with himself. Yeah, like Celia, we get such a good idea of who Celia is. He's simultaneously grappling with himself and like trying to stay in his little escapist world while still having to face the reality of the situation. He's he's playing the dumbass, but he's also not an idiot. And at the same time, it makes for a really entertaining chapter to see him like talking about XYZ, and he knows that like at this moment in time, Casca and Monza are at his mercy. So he's taking this opportunity just to like talk about himself and feel like he's important again to these random strangers, like you guys said in the beginning. But it's also fucking pointless and he knows that though. He's still playing along because that's what makes him feel good.
Yeah, with Celia, kind of, you would say that he's not ignoring the situation at hand, right? But he's kind of just like, he doesn't really want to think about it. So he goes like, so anyway.
This collection came from Midderland.
I have the best chef in all of Styria.
But I like to think like in his head, he's making like a really grandiose point. But to everyone else, you're just like, oh, you're a fucking idiot.
They're like moron.
Such is politics.
Yeah.
That's
So
how
we
people
get,
talk whenever they don't actually know what's going on. They're like, oh, that's just the way of things.
yeah. And so like through talking about the different paintings and sculptures he has, which isn't important, it's only important to him and Ganmark. He does say at some point that he's been wondering what to do, right? And he would value Mercado's opinion because she's so well renowned for her ruthlessness, single-mindedness, and commitment. And decisiveness has never been his greatest talent. He's too prone to think on what is lost by a certain course of action, to look with longing at all those doors that will be closed rather than the possibilities presented by the one that I must open. Monza says, yeah, that's a weakness in a soldier. And he goes, I know, I'm a weak man and a poor soldier. I have relied on good intentions, fair words, and righteous causes. And it seems I and my people now will pay for it. I could flee the city by small boat in the hours of darkness. And then, Monza goes, yeah, it's a brief sanctuary. Rogan will be next anyway if you try to flee the city to go to him next, to Austria. And then maybe what if Salier surrenders himself to Ganmark? And Monza goes, you know what will follow. And he goes, yeah, well, and then Salier gets a little cunty here. He goes, well, perhaps Ganmark is not so utterly bereft of mercy as some of Orso's other dogs. And
I mean, you really get a sense here that Salier is just kind of, he's inherited this fucking dukedom from his father, and he's just gotten really fat and lazy off it, and it's just going along with whatever comes. And it's put his fucking city in danger because there's this big force coming, and he's just kind of just not done anything about it.
Yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
I don't know if he's not done anything about it, but he's definitely not done any of the right things, which he admits because he is self-aware, but he's also too lazy and too caught up in his own little world to actually make he even says make decisive action because he's too. You're right. He was born into it, and he's too used to the comfort. So anything that sacrifices that comfort, he's not willing to sacrifice, which makes it to where he's just not been a very good leader.
Yeah. I mean,
but I think he's tried, just not in an actual effective way. He's tried in his own way. I know that he gets called out for being self-righteous here in a minute, but he does he has fought at battles. His army has, he has been in the coalition. You know what I mean? He has supplied money and funds and things like that. He just been an idiot about it.
Yeah. And I guess whenever you see, like you mentioned, Harrison, that he inherited the dukedom from his father. So we can call him a Nepo baby, as what's popular to say nowadays, right? In terms of the League of Eight, I do see what you're saying. I think that does apply, absolutely. Prior to that, pre-League of Eight, I mean, one only gets to be the kind of person he is right now. He's a glutton, right? Collecting works of art. I don't know if he's... he tells himself that he's been this champion of the people. Who knows what Viscerine was like before the League of Eight and all this mayhem, right?
Well, we kind of get an idea, right? Go ahead, George.
So he's only, probably 40s, 50s. And this war, the latest spat of wars that have been going on, the Years of Blood, have only been going on for maybe 15, 20 years at this point.
Yeah. So
he probably grew up in relative prosperity.
When you say the Years of Blood, are you talking about include Orso's campaign, or are you just talking about in general, the battles, the wars that have been going on?
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Like a general period where this is where it's the fighting started, or at least it kicked off.
So the Years of Blood have been for about 15 years or so, like George said, because Monza lived in a peacetime. She grew up in a peacetime until she was 15 or whatever.
15.
And it's been about 15 years since then.
Right, but Orso didn't start his campaign, relatively. I wouldn't,
there's
maybe
no
5 years.
point.
maybe like 5 years or something like that.
They
Because-
all started fighting each other about 15 years ago, and then the League of
Yeah.
Eight formed within the last like
I'd
Yeah,
say
I don't-
5. I'd say 5.
5 to 10 years, somewhere in there.
Just think about it, because if they had formed 5 to 10 years ago, oh, you know what? Maybe 5 to 10, maybe
Because
just
Monza's been building a reputation for 10 years with Casca.
with
somewhere in
Costco.
there.
But then also she knew Therese, right? Back when Therese was in Styrian
Yeah.
soil. How much time has passed again from last Argument of Kings?
So
to...
I think that's between 4. It's between 4 and 6 years, right?
I thought it was 3 and 5. I don't know why I thought that the time was 3 to 5 years from last.
Well, this is he's second child, right, with Therese.
Whatever.
Is he?
Oh no, even me, it might even be
No.
less. It might be 3 years.
No, so
think
yeah,
Therese-
it's 3 to 4 years because Therese
Right.
is pregnant with her third child, so there's only so much
Third
wiggle
child.
room you can have.
Right.
But
and
at
you-
the same time, it's obviously been 3 4 years somewhere in there.
Yeah, I don't think the Orso's campaign can have started more than, I'll say, 6 years, maybe 8. You know, like I just don't think more than that.
But I think there's been political posturing and
yes,
political games going on for decades and decades. But
We also have to
It's
remember
just
too
about-
that each of the go ahead, George. Sorry.
no, you go.
I'm just gonna say we have to remember that each time there's a campaign season, it's not like modern day wars. They specifically state multiple times in Styria that they have their campaign season, spring to fall or
Yeah,
whatever. So
yes.
like the time, each time they talk about they did Capril in the summer, whatever, and then like it's probably a whole nother year before something else happens.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
there is that to think about. It takes longer for them to do stuff because they're in that kind of era.
Right. And
Yeah, you don't want to get caught down in the mud; it will kill you.
True.
Yeah.
And to continue on what like Cellier's doing here, he goes, well, if I can't surrender, I can't escape. Maybe I can kind of negotiate with Orso. What if I deliver him, the lady that's that's responsible for the murder of his eldest son and all that stuff? And she goes, well, good luck to you. And even he knows that, yeah, Orso would never negotiate, even if he could get back his son alive, right? At this point, nah, there's no
Yeah.
hope of that. He goes, well, then now my only choice possibly could be suicide, to plunge my blade into the chest like the heroes of yonder, whatever. And they started talking about that stuff. He started talking about the methods of
just-
suicide.
I think we can't cover every single thing that Celia waxes poetic here. Like, we can't.
We can't. But Jesus Christ, we can't. That's ridiculous. But it's just like,
He goes on and on about committing suicide, and then he's like, "But it's quite undignified, I've heard they, whenever somebody gets hanged, they just come." I don't know where he gets. Where does he get this from? I've heard
Yeah.
about shitting yourself when you get hanged.
yeah.
I've never heard about having an orgasm or something. I don't get it. What the-
Wait, you've never heard of that?
No,
Hey, you guys
Yeah,
tell
that's
me
a
that.
thing. That's a thing.
is
Babe,
it?
get the gun.
That's a thing.
You seen that?
No. I'll
You
just
read
say, I'll just say that
Did you-
it's well. Wait, first of all, it's well
Jeff,
known
Jeff,
that when
have you?
it's well
have you
known that
seen
when
it?
you die, a lot of times
Yeah,
you
you
shit yourself.
piss and shit yourself.
Yeah.
You evacuate your bowels, but you wouldn't.
Yeah.
But that you
But
need
what?
like certain stimulation to like ejaculate.
No, not to ejaculate. No.
That's what he means, though. That is what he means, right?
No, when he's saying spend, he means taking a shit.
But why? But why does he then say I still manage it once a day despite my size?
Shitting, because that's the whole point.
Shitting.
Shitting is so
Shitting.
hard for
Yeah,
him.
yeah. No,
'Cause he's
no,
so
no.
huge.
Fat people shit more than.
Uh,
No. Fat people shit all the time.
Maybe that's the joke though, George. Is that he's the fact that he shits once a day. He acts like it's a proud moment, but really he should
I
be
always
shitting
thought
more.
that was about.
oh, you know what? Hold on. George might be right because he flapped his
Yeah,
hands.
read that again.
He
Yeah,
flapped
exactly.
his hands. He flapped his hands away from his groin in demonstration.
Well, I thought maybe that was like just pissing yourself.
Yeah,
You know,
but
like-
because dudes. Here's the thing.
He would be
autoerotic-
pissing all the time.
erotic asphyxiation, that's a thing where you get like a hard on for it. You don't immediately just, bleh, when you're, I don't
But I
know.
think it's more of like an automatic reaction, right? Because
Yeah,
I think that's
maybe.
what he's talking about. But I've just never. That is right though. Like he is literally talking about that. He's not talking about. He's. That's not just me. I can't. Come on, guys.
Actually, I always, you have to understand, years I read this book, I always thought he meant, taking a dump. Now, just by that, because I must have glossed over that one sentence. I think you're right, George. I think he's talking about ejaculating, and that is okay. We're just gonna skip on past that, buddies. And then, so anyway, Sailor is, he's musing to his muses. And he goes, what to do, what to do, what to do. And then Monza steps in front of him all menacingly and goes, help me kill Ganmark. Even Casca's like surprised. He goes, oh, she still got fire to her. Okay. And he goes, Sailor goes, why would I ever do that? And Monza knows how to get to people. Casca knows this, obviously. She says, because he'll be coming for your collection, all your paintings, your sculptures, and everything. And then just to drive the knife a little bit deeper, she goes, Ganmark is a connoisseur just like yourself. And this pisses off Cellier because he goes, that union cocksucker is nothing like me.
That's good. That's good. Nice impression, Jeff.
Thank you. I watched the Borgias, and I know Jeremy Irons when he gets angry. He's like, Simony, whatever. Anyway. There goes a common thief and braggart. And he degenerate man fucker. Hey, Sally, you're a little homophobic there, buddy. What's going on here? Peace and love, I thought you were all about. Anywho, he can have my life, but he will never have my paintings. I will see to it. Well, Monza then goes, well, I can see to it. He'll come here when the city is falling. He'll rush here because he wants to make sure he secures your collection. We can be waiting. We'll be dressed as the soldiers. When he enters, we drop your portcullis. Portcullis, yeah. Portcullis, thank you. And we have him. You have him. Help me. And Cellier goes, he just kind of like ignores it. He goes, oh, yeah. Anyway, these are my two favorite paintings here. He's a dick. And then, Monza's not going to let up, though. She goes, we were talking of Ganmark. Help me. And he goes, listen, if you only had sought my help 5 seasons ago before, these battles and everything, maybe then. And then she just interrupts him. She goes, listen, sorry if I'm blunt, but I spent the night being beaten like a sack of meat. You ask me for my opinion. You've lost because you're weak, soft, and slow, not because you're too good. You fought alongside or so happily enough when you share the same goals, and you smiled happily enough at his methods as long as they brought you more land. So your men, they spread fire, rape, and murder when it suited you. No love of freedom then. The only open hand the farmers Peranti had from you back in those days was the one that crushed them flat. So play the martyr if you must, but not with me, because I'm already sick. And then Casca himself, it goes, ooh, I don't know if that's a good idea. But
and I really, really, really fucking love this about Monza,
Yeah, she just
Monza,
did not give a fuck.
Monza from the start just fucking knows what's going on. She just knows. You know what I mean? She is absolutely in charge and just knows everybody's motivations because she's had the worst motivations.
Yeah.
And she's had the best motivations. And she just and she can just judge everybody like that and just be like, yeah, well, you're just a shit like everybody else. Doesn't matter how rich you are or how powerful you are, you're just the same as the rest of us.
Yeah, it does a really good this chapter does a really good job at highlighting like how quickly Monza's able to take action compared to everybody else. Like Casca's even like, okay, whatever, I'm not really care. Monza simultaneously cares enough to take action, is observant enough to understand what's going on, and like, like serious enough. I don't know what the term would be, but like she's I guess, fiery. She's got devil in her, right? So she wants to take that action. She's got the motivation to do so, which most people in real life don't feel that way either. So people just kind of want to go about it, or they want to feel big rather than actually be big. So I think that like she calls him out here, and it definitely shows that she knows how to get exactly where, like, hit him or exactly where it hurts.
Right.
She doesn't give a fuck. I mean, what's going to happen?
Right.
What
Exactly.
he kills him? Like whatever.
Right. And we don't get a concrete decision from Duke Sailor here yet, but he does after she says all that shit. He goes, "Oh, you're blunt, huh? Well, if you spoke to Orso like this, then no wonder he threw you down a mountain." And then he goes, "Listen, since we're being so honest, what did you do to piss him off so much? I thought he loved you like a daughter, far more than his own children, I heard. Not that any of those three are so lovable." And then Monza goes, "I became too popular with his people." And Sailor goes, "Yeah, and?" And she goes, "He was afraid I might steal his throne." He goes, "Indeed, uh-huh. And I suppose your eyes never looked at his throne." And she goes, "Only to keep him in it?" And he goes, "Truly, yeah, word." And he goes, "It would hardly have been." No, he goes, he looks at Casca and he goes, "It would not have been the first chair that your loyal claws tore from under its owner, would it?" And she goes, "I did nothing except win his battles and make him the greatest man in Styria, nothing else." And the Duke goes, "Listen, I'm fat, but I'm not dumb. But let you do all that. Okay, fine. You're innocent. Yeah, you gave out cakes at Capril. Yeah, right. Keep your secrets as much as you want. Hopefully they'll do as much good as possible." And it
I
goes,
actually love how Celia like claps back here.
"Yep,
He's
yep."
like, "Oh, you're gonna call me out for my bullshit? Oh yeah, you weren't gonna go for his throne. You weren't gonna be a hard ass. You weren't gonna take over. Okay, sure. Oh, okay, fine. You were just doing his dirty work. You butchered a whole city. Okay. Oh, like he really. I like that he does that because like most of the people, Monza calls him out and they're like, oh, but he's just like, fuck you, bitch. I know
Yep.
you're just as bad.
Yeah, and obviously there's gonna be like reveals later on, but it's like, Monza, you really just you didn't see it, but we'll get into that like obviously later on in the book. As they keep walking, they throughout their courtyard or whatever, they look at these sculptures. He gets into more pontificating about the history of certain sculptures, whatever the case may be. And then as they're talking about these sculptures, a soldier comes up to Cellier and says, "So there's been another assault." And Cellier's like, "So close to breakfast? Jesus. Of course, this Gamwark would do it. He does not care about meal times." And he asks the soldier, like, "Well, what's happened so far?" He goes, "The Talanese have forced a second breach towards the harbor. They drove them back, but with heavy losses." And he starts going on a little bit more. He goes, "Well, we're greatly outnumbered and everything." And he goes, "Yes, yes, yes, of course you are. Anyway, order your men to hold their positions as long as possible." And the colonel is like, "So, and then what do we do?" And Sailor's like, "That's all. That'll be all." And the colonel goes, "Your Excellency." And he bows and he goes away. And Casca thinks about like, "Oh, there goes another heroic, pointless death." And then Cellier goes, "Viscerine will soon fall. Oh, how profoundly depressing. If only he could be more like Stolicus, who is one of the statues there we have."
Casca says, "Thinner waisted?"
And he goes, "I meant warlike, but sure." And then he thanks Monza for her almost uncomfortably honest counsel. He has a few days yet to make his decision. So in the meantime, he hopes the two of them, Casca and Monza, will remain with the Duke and everybody else. The two of them and their three friends, which would be Day, Friendly, and Shivers. And Monza goes, "Your guests or your prisoners?" He goes, "You've seen how my prisoners are treated. Which would be your choice?" And they just, mic drop, chapter ends. So, boys, how would you rate this chapter?
Alan?
George, go ahead.
I really do like this chapter.
Uh-huh.
I like seeing Celia. You could kind of see him as this kind of hard ass that just kind of. And
You think he's a hard ass?
because he dismisses people. Like the way he just doesn't look at that guard. And,
Yeah. I don't know about
yeah,
hard ass.
just
like
fight, just fight
passive.
to the last man. It's fine, Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I hear you. I guess passive and disregarding of life, but I hear what you're saying.
But more than anything, I like to see Monza just being absolutely fed the fuck up and just not giving a shit. Just being like,
Yeah.
no, you're just a cunt. Like, you're just a cunt like the rest of us.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
I reckon I'll give this a 6.
Yeah, really? Okay. 6 out of 9 fingers. Okay. Harrison, what would you give this chapter?
Man, it's just like the Celia chapter. And I really like Celia. And there's like, I just like how they go back and forth and how there's a lot of like subtleties in the language. But it is just some like talking and it's just like, it was just good wordplay. So I think I'll probably rate this chapter a 7 out of 9.
You made it sound like you were gonna go really low. What the fuck?
Well, I do. I like the chapter a lot, actually. I think that, like I said, I think the wordplay's awesome. I think that 7 out of 9 is where I end up landing on it because I like it, but it's not like perfect or anything.
You said 7 out of 9?
Yep, I really like this chapter.
Interesting. Okay. I'm gonna go with a 5 out of 9.
You don't like the talking chapters, Jeff?
No. I like it. Here's the thing. For me, I like it a lot. I think it's great. I think it's a great chapter. I think there's that. I think this worked really well from the Coma's perspective here. I think if it was from Monza's perspective, it might be tainted by that drive, that mission for revenge and everything. And obviously,
it wouldn't be objective enough. Yeah,
wouldn't be objective enough. She would still be traumatized from her experience, which honestly that would have provided a lot of insight. But I feel like Nakomo is a pretty good objective observer here, and I enjoy the dynamic where they're at the behest, right, of this guy who's in charge, but he's in charge of a doomed city. He himself is doomed, and it's weird that they still kind of have to be on tiptoes around him. They can't necessarily I mean, Monza does insult him in a way, right? But she doesn't insult him to the point where. Well, I guess I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying to say, but she
knows how important she is.
She knows how important she is. She knows that if she represents a chance to at least one last get back at Orso by killing Gammark, possibly for Celia.
Yeah.
And I like this. We get a really good in-depth look at Celia in this one chapter, at least right here, that we get. Okay, he calls himself a man of the people, a champion of the people, but we know the real deal. Think it's good, but I mean, in terms of driving the plot forward, what it did then was that it established that Monza's okay, Nakomo's fine, that Nakomo was not lying when he said I could just show up and just say I'm here for dinner. And yeah, he's here. And also that we get insight into Grand Duke Celia and that there might be some kind of agreement to go after Gammark if he does invade the city, but we don't know for sure. That's it in terms of driving the plot forward, but good character development on Celia's part. But
fair enough.
Yeah, Nakomo and Monza, they didn't really grow here, but they don't need to grow in every chapter. So 5 out of 9 fingers for me. So with that, let's move on to our next segment, which is Best Meme of the Week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
We have another Tower Ball classic here. And this is, I think, maybe the third or fourth that has made a reference to American Psycho. I think he might be a fan of American Psycho.
He got a kick. Yeah.
Something tells me he likes American Psycho.
Yeah, it's that bit where he's pointing to the stereo and he's like, you don't know Huey Ulyss in the news? And it's like the First Law fan constantly pointing it out to their friend who has zero interest in fantasy or audiobooks about how good Pacey's clocked as the performances. I absolutely have done that to just random strangers, and they just do not give a shit. And I'm just loving it.
I've done this to my sister. I've done this to friends, and they're like, whatever. And I'm like, you son of a bitch!
Yeah, just as long as you're happy, it's good.
Then I bring out the axe, and I'm like, you made me do this.
I'm like, yeah, this book is really good. Honestly, he's the best narrator out there. You should actually listen to it just for the narration, because the narration is what makes it so good. You don't even need to read the book. Just read just listen to it. It's not that hard. Just listen to it while you're on work. It's gonna be great. And then when you're on the way home, you can just be driving. Don't worry about it. Just listen to it, please. Please listen to
it. Oh god, I actually hand people my headphones, but like, look, just listen.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for that, George. Appreciate it. We love a good time.
Thank you, Tamil Paul. That was a good one.
Yeah. Thank you, Tamil Boy. We know we love it when you drop the mic, right? It's almost we need you more nowadays. We do. So we'll move on to our next chapter read through, and this one is called Vile Jelly. I wonder what this one's related to. So, Harrison, do you want to take this over real quick? I think you got like some hankering for it.
Well, I'm gonna. The issue is, Jeff, is that whenever I start going through these, I skip parts because I just get too excited.
I got you.
So you start it, and then when we get to the good shit, I'll.
Okay. So you signal to me when you're ready. Okay.
Sounds good.
Right, good. Perfect. So we start off this chapter from the perspective of our homie, Shivers. He's doing well, I think. It was near healed, his face. A little bit of a faint pink stripe. He feels it across his forehead, through his brow, and across his cheek, but most likely it's going to fade in a few days. Oh, look at that. It's fucking great. His eye is a little hurtful, but other than that, he kept his looks, because if I'm not mistaken, I think Shivers is not an ugly man. He's a decently, looking man, attractive. Mons is out here bagging, breaking his back through them bed sheets back in, Westport. That's what it was. Breaking them bed frames. and look, Mons is still in bed with him. Sheet around her waist, arching her against him. He's loving it. And then he kind of gets up from the bed. He looks at because he was looking at the mirror. I'm sorry. He was looking in the mirror, looking at his face. Then he goes towards the window, and he's looking out, and he can see that Viscerine, the city, is burning. Fires are lighting up the night. And it's crazy because he wasn't sure what city he was in, though, or why he was there. And now his mind is like, it's kind of foggy, and he's rubbing his cheek. And now he goes, well, out of nowhere, this hurts a lot. Out of nowhere, this hurts. And then he hears a voice, and it goes, oh, that hurts? And he turns around real fast. He goes, what the fuck's going on? And he sees Fenris the Feared looming over him. That tall motherfucker, his head is brushing the ceiling. And we know how Fenris the Feared looked. And Shivers is freaking out. He goes, you're fucking dead. and Fenris goes, I'll say when I'm dead.
He points at the pommel. He points at the sword pommel, like in his chest or whatever. He's like, oh, I mean, this really hurts. Did you cut your hair? I liked you better before. In typical Pacey dream fashion, weird shit still happens.
And then out of nowhere, we hear Bethod's voice. And because his face is smashed in, we hear him go, that's not supposed to you. This is what it looks like. Why couldn't you win, you stupid half devil bastard? Did that come across?
And Shivers is trying to. Yeah. Came across close enough. They can read the book, Jeff.
Son of a bitch!
Shivers is like, I'm dreaming. I must be dreaming. And then somebody was singing like a sweet melody. And it said, I am made of death, a hammer banging on a nail. I am the great leveler. Bang, bang, bang. Each time sending a jolt of pain through Shivers' face. I am the storm in the high places. The bloody nine hummed to himself as he cut the corpse of Shiver's brother into bits, stripped to the waist, a body of massive scars, twisted muscle, dabbed with blood. You're the good man, eh? He waved his knife at Shivers, grinning. You need to fucking toughen up, boy. You should have killed me. Now help me get his arms off, Optimist. Well, again, what Pacey does here, and George and I were talking about it right before, in Pacey's rendition of Logan's voice, he doesn't sound like Logan, but he does sound like the Bloody Nine in the few lines that the Bloody Nine has in the audiobook. He sounds a little bit different, more coarse, more rough, more cold, and Pacey's able to deliver. Like, it kind of throws you off. You're like, that's not what Logan sounds like, but it is what he sounds like to Shivers.
It's a Shivers, yeah, right? And I like
that is incredible, the amount of fucking detail that is put into that one tiny little thing, that one little line inflection from that one context. I just think that just what makes the fucking audiobooks just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, it really like, I remember hearing this and being like, I got chills whenever I heard this in the audiobook, because like, it's not just because there's Logan. It's like, oh yeah, it's a reminder that this isn't like, oh, it's cool with Logan. It's like, oh god, this is terrifying. Like, Shivers is so scared of Logan, like he literally sees him in his nightmares. He's literally terrified of him to that degree. And remind you that this isn't like our friend Logan. This is the Bloody Nine haunting his dreams. And it basically just brings it off so well. And even in the audio, even in reading the book, you're like, oh Jesus,
yeah,
I wouldn't want to have this kind of dream,
Yeah, and I think we have to remember, and right, is like, as the audience of the podcast, but also like just people that are reading the book, especially if you're a first-time reader, you have to remember that by the time the last argument of King ends, it's kind of established that Logan and the Bloody Nine are the same person. Is obviously we have our opinions, some very similar or different on the podcast, but in terms of like what's the reasoning there for this AKA split personality or this separation of who's who in terms of when it comes to Logan, Nine Fingers, and the Bloody Nine. But yeah, I mean, the point of that is Shivers. You have to imagine from Shivers' point of view, which we don't see in the first trilogy, he must have been, as angry he was, right, that we saw from Logan's perspective or Dogman's perspective, he must have been terrified of Logan.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder too, like, if Shivers is telling himself that he didn't kill Logan because he was trying to be a better man, or if he didn't kill him because he was actually scared he wouldn't die or something.
Right, exactly.
Like, wow.
How many people?
It's almost like his entire motivation is that he's running away from Logan.
Yeah. I think to a certain degree, without him stating it, without Shivers being aware of it, it's got to be to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely, it is, because he can tell himself he's trying to be a better man, and obviously, yes, that is true to an extent. That truth is a part of what drives Shivers to like where he's at now. Well, maybe where he was at up until about a chapter ago, but but that fear is pervasive. You have to imagine it is. You find out that your older brother, when you were 10 years old, was murdered by the most
feared man of the North,
historically feared man of the North. Like, Scarling Hoodless was revered. The Bloody Nine is the boogeyman on the whatever. And your brother died, and not only did he just die, he got fucking dismembered and used as an ornament. Like, what the fuck? And
as a prisoner as well.
Yeah, and then here, like, Harrison.
Yeah, the prisoner, right, George?
Yeah, prisoner of war, which you would think that there's that etiquette, that those rule times of war, those rule in times of war. I'm sorry.
Not to the storm in the high places,
No, right.
That is a spoiler, so yeah.
Yes, but here's what I'll say. I will say, correct me if I'm wrong, Harrison or George, but the next sentence right after you said the whole "you should have killed me," Optimist, that thing. Is this the first time that we get an indication from Shivers that he didn't like his brother?
Yeah, I think it is. I think every other time that he refers to him, he always refers to him really, really positively. Like,
Right. I think so.
oh, my brother always did this because, and it's a very positive reason why he looks
Yeah.
up to him or something
Right.
like that.
Right. So this is something to keep an eye on, right? If you're a first time reader and you're following along, he says the first line he says, Shivers, right in response to the Bloody Nine. He goes, and I feel like, tell me if Pacey delivers it like this, but this is how I'm reading it, right? He goes, the dead know I don't like this bastard any, but he's got a point, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but he's not talking about Shivers. He's not talking about his brother. He's talking about the Bloody Nine. Because he's got a point that, you should have killed him. I misread that. That's on me. Sorry. Misread that now.
But he does say, but you're right though. He says you need to toughen up. Mercy and cowardice are the same. It gives you the idea that perhaps the voice in his head he kind of hears as his brother's to a certain degree, like the criticism part of him. He sees that as his brother because we know that he kind of disregards his dad, and his dad is up next. His dad says, like, you're a fucking embarrassment. Why couldn't you be the one dead? Your brother lived. You useless little fuck. You useless, gutless, disappointing speck of shit. And Shivers kind of disregards him though. Even in this, even though it's there with him, that weight is carried. He still says, "This is rubbish." This is just rubbish. And then we gotta get a funny part. George, do you want to talk about this part? You like these guys?
We all like them. We all like them.
I do absolutely love this bit. It's just like it's a bit obvious, isn't it? Like, shapes and dreams, and people tell him why shit. It's just a bit obvious, isn't it? It's like, well, if you were smarter, you'd have smarter dreams, wouldn't you? Said the dog man.
you got all of them chiming in. You told her it was like, oh, well, what's rubbish? And then, after he says that, Grim goes, huh?
Yeah.
And then
just
blacked
get
out.
the whole melody of it. You get the whole medley of the Northwood.
What is George? You do a good blacked out voice. What does blacked out say?
You need to. You
And
gotta,
I love it's a callback as well. He's like, "Don't blame us, boy. Your dream, no. You get your hair cut."
Everybody, it means that Shivers, even though he hasn't talked about it, it means he's super self-conscious about his haircut.
He's just thinking about it all the time. It's like, oh my god, I don't have long hair anymore. What the fuck?
I'm not a northerner anymore.
This little section here is it's just so well done. Pacey does such a good job at dreams, and we haven't gotten one in so long. So it was so cool to see it pop up. Basically, he's just having a nightmare as that his little segment ends, and then it cuts to Monza. Basically just dealing with. I mean, honestly, it's there's not too much to say here. It's basically just the fact that he's freaking out. It reminds her. It definitely, at least to me, whenever I read it, I kind of summarize in my head as it reminds her whenever she had to take care of Benna whenever he was little, or Benna whenever he was hurting, or whatever. Like she feels that weird attachment to him, where she feels like she has to take care of him, and at the same time despises him. She's got some kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
she's got the I can fix him mentality.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a minute. But yes, Monza's he kind of comes to, like you said, Harrison, right? And it's still his perspective, but he comes to, and now we realize he has not healed at all. Like you said, it's all dream, right? He's bandaged the fuck up. He's in pain. This man is jacked up. At this point, Monza's making him smoke husk, right, for the pain.
Yep.
And Monza's trying to relax, and he's freaking out. He goes like, I fucking tried, make it stop, please. And it's not. I mean, he's in all kinds of sorts.
Yeah.
And she.
I mean,
the
man is literally begging for death.
Yes, and at some point, she keeps giving him the husk pipe, right? And he says, they burned my eye out. And this is the first, and I think that maybe the only time, correct me if I'm wrong. And I know it's not a big deal, blink and you miss it kind of thing, but I think it's a big deal. Monza goes, she whispered, gently stroking the good side of his face. Quiet now, call. Quiet. First time she ever said his first name.
I
First
think
and
it's the first time anybody
only.
calls him by his first name.
I don't think any, but specifically with Monza, I think first time she said his first name, and I think it might be the only time. And I know it's not a big deal, but I think I know
No,
for a
it's a
fact
huge
it's
deal.
a huge deal
It's a huge
psychologically in like our world. Using people's names, it kind of creates that bond. It deepens it.
Yeah.
And she did it. I don't want to talk too much about the future, but
I guess the thing that makes it kind of sad and you know, like, I think the thing that let's wrapping up the chapter, you know, like she's right before we get into it a little bit more. Go ahead, Jeff. Go and wrap it up, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I was just gonna wrap it up. So like, she tells him to be quiet. You know, it's okay to calm down. And she's like, you know, cradling him in her arms, and then he kind of pulls her closer, and he whispers to her, "Should have been you. It should have been you." And that is another mic drop end to this fucking chapter. Yowza!
Burn. So like for the thing that she says, like it's very intimate, right? She says "call," which is something that's, you know, it's like if your loved one is the only one who calls you by your first name, everyone else calls you by your last name. It's that level of it, and you know, for Monza with her, that's the most intimate she's ever been with him. Possibly with a lot of people, that's more intimate than she is with most people. Yeah. And because she feels, well, knowing how Monza is, she feels very, very guilty for what happened. She already thinks it probably should have been her, but him saying that makes it even worse because like this is what he wanted. He wanted to be close with Monza, and she's doing it kind of out of pity now. And he goes, "It should have been you." It's like it's so multi-layered and like that their relationship and how fucked up and also like sweet and also you know what I mean? Like it's messed up.
Yeah,
George, what do you think?
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, they're just fucking absolutely fantastic, fucked up relationships. There's not one single normal. I say normal. There's not really such a thing as a normal relationship, but there's not one healthy relationship in this entire fucking series. I fucking love it.
Lies.
I disagree. But I understand.
Well, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
That'll be a YouTube video. That'll be a YouTube video. Bank that. So yes, that's the end of that chapter. Let's go ahead and just give our scores, our ratings, real quick. George, do you want to give your ratings?
Hell yeah, fuck me. This is the best chapter in any Joe Abercrombie book. I just love how he's gone from a classic bait and switch. Oh yeah, no, he's woken up and everything's okay again, and then oh no, it's actually just a dream, and then all of these interactions with his past self and the way he thinks about himself and the way things are all interacted, and then it's like, oh shit, actually no, I am a mutilated monster and I wish I was dead from the pain. All in 3.5 pages. I think that's a 9 out of 9 for me.
Oh. Okay. That's a score.
Jeffrey, I can't look at your face while we're recording right now. I looked up, we both had the same reaction, like, what the fuck? And then we both were like, all right, be mature.
Was there rambling there?
No,
you weren't rambling. We were surprised at the score. That's it.
The minute you said best chapter in the entire, like all Joe Abercrombie's books, I was like,
no, I fucking love it. I think it's brilliant.
Wow. All right. I mean, you know, taste is subjective.
What would you rate it? Jeff, what would you rate it?
What would you give it? Yeah, what would you give it, Jeff?
I don't want to piss off George.
Just say what you mean. George is a big boy.
All right. I'll give it a 4 and a knuckle. It's look again, as Harrison has said on multiple occasions, is like I feel like Harrison's like you're the one that says this a lot, right? It's like a preface to like, hey, this isn't a bad chapter, right? This is not a bad chapter. This is a great chapter. But to me, in terms of driving things forward, in terms of I guess where this does
Yeah, fair enough.
It's Shiver's turning point though,
we don't know that
and it's
yet. We don't see it. It's he's right there at the top. We see the start of Shiver's turning point at the
He's
last
right, though.
sentence. At the last sentence of the chapter, right?
And it's not the start. I mean, it's already there.
Yes,
we
but
just don't see the consequences
we
of
don't,
it.
yes,
until...
we don't see the culmination. We don't see the manifestation of this, right? What we see are the internal machinations of that turning point. But the only time we get an inkling that, oh, it's taking effect is when he tells Monza it should have been you. Now, the Shivers we know prior, right, doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. But the Shivers we know prior doesn't have his eye burned out. Now, I will say this. There is character development here. Just in this dream sequence and everything, there is, right? Because we are seeing things from Shiver's perspective from like at first it was initially dishonest and then it literally does a 180 to immediate honesty, right? And almost away, but like frenzied honesty. But in terms of everything else that constitutes a chapter, driving the plot forward, all these other things, I'm only giving it a 4 out of 5 knuckles because length of chapter is not that long, or it's for the dream sequence. There was a lot of pages devoted to this that could have been maybe cut down just a bit, maybe. But other than that, I think it's a good chapter. But 4 out of 5 out of 9 fingers for me. Harrison, what's your score?
8 out of 9.
Wow. I'm dumb.
No, man. No. There's nothing wrong with your There's nothing wrong with your analysis, Jeff. Like, if that's the way you read it, that's the way you read it.
That's the way you read
it. Like, we definitely have a different perspective coming for the audiobook as well.
Yeah. Sometimes George rates things high, and we both rate things low, and vice versa. Yeah. I think that this chapter, like, especially like the way that I think a lot of influence comes from Pacey's delivery of these other characters that pop in here, and the way he paces out, and how terrified he makes Shiver sound, and how soft he makes Monza sound. Like, there's so much just character in this chapter, and like emotion that I have I just get so many feelings. Like, I remember listening to this, I thought to myself, I got to get this 8 out of 9. I thought about 9 out of 9, but I thought, I'm probably just be like, 9, So I calmed down a little bit and thought about it and thought, but the turning point, this is huge turning point for Shivers. We get to, even Monza's little part, it's all in Shivers' head, and it's just like, if you like Shivers, this has got to be up there, because this is the chapter for him.
It's
we get so much, so well written. So that's how I feel about it.
Right.
But it is short, and we don't get. I mean, it's just that it's one really intense highlight, and so I think 8 out of 9 for me.
Yeah, I guess I have to remember that you guys specifically, the both of you are scoring this the majority of it audiobook, right? Are you? I forget. Are you guys reading this at the same time as you're listening, or are you guys just listening?
I just usually listen.
You just George?
I'll read over. I'll read over before, maybe an hour before we record. But generally, I love the audiobook so much. They've taken over. It's incredible.
Man, I'm a Luddite. I'm old school. I like paper. But all right, okay. But I see your points. That makes sense. That does make sense. But so we'll move on to our next segment, which for this episode will be our character spot. Now, boys, who will we highlight today? I know who it is, but take it away, Harrison. I believe that's you.
Duke Celia.
Grand Duke Celia.
Well, yes, George. He's basically in 2 chapters in the whole book, really, honestly. But those 2 chapters, bro, they shine. He's got to be one of the most Pacey does really not Pacey. Joe does a really, really good job at writing these characters. Like I said many times, to the point that they feel like real people. So most side characters, they you don't even think about them being as side characters. Celia, I think he completely takes the page whenever he comes up. He is the presence. He's the main character inside this chapter we just read. I wouldn't say he's the main character in the next chapter he's in, but he's like such a presence in it. And how he carries himself and stuff, like he kind of sucks, but at the same time, he's kind of cool. like he knows he does know his stuff. He just doesn't take action, and he does something hardly any other character does. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but he actually takes action. So that means Thalia does something almost no other character does, which he has a positive character arc in the 2 chapters he's in, and it's totally believable for his character. It's fucking awesome.
It's pretty crazy. It really is. It really is.
And I think that's we get introduced to Thalia during the parade in Sipani, I think, isn't it? And it's just like, this guy's just like a big glutton, and he's just, how did they get him on his horse? Oh, they must have dug a trench underneath him to get it, and that's just the big joke. He's just a fat man.
Right.
And then we see him, and he's actually kind of a logical person. And I think that's, it kind of goes against the stereotype that, this guy is huge and fat and he's rich and he must be a fucking idiot, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so brilliant that Joe just goes, oh no, this guy's actually a thoughtful person. He's so soft and so kind of, he is weak.
Yes.
That he can't make a decision where he needs to because he's scared to.
Right.
But, and I think it's and I think that's interesting because that, if you like you said, Harrison, that it just makes him a person. It doesn't have to be somebody that you have to root for or somebody that you need to like, but it just makes them so believable. Yeah,
and he but he does at the end,
I mean, even at this point, I think he's just such a believable. I read this and I'm just like, that's somebody that I can see. That's my local politician, probably.
He's a local politician. Yeah, it's a great metaphor for him. Duke Thalia is your local politician. Like, he seems like he doesn't give a fuck. He's totally aloof. He doesn't know what's going on. But if push really comes to shove and it gets really serious, he probably will do better than you think he would. Like, way better than you think he would. To the point you're like, oh, yeah. For Viscerine, okay.
Yeah, I won't raise taxes.
I mean, and clearly the guy is clearly very educated as well. He's not unintelligent.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
No, he's very smart.
Yeah. Well, educated in the arts. That's all we know.
But he's just so aloof and, like you said, just completely disconnected from reality that he just can't do his fucking job properly.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Again, like my local politician.
That's good. It's an excellent metaphor for him. So that's all I have to say about him.
You know what I love about somebody like Grand Duke Thalia is the ability to just understand. Like, they were at breakfast, right? And Monza did say, we know they're at breakfast. And Monza said at some point, I spent the night being beaten to a pulp, whatever. So we know for a fact that the night prior, maybe 6 hours ago, right, or 8 hours ago, Duke Thalia walked down into the dungeon, saw Monza all bloodied, battered, and bruised, and saw Shivers turned into a George Foreman grill on his face, right? And then he goes, and then we start off the chapter with him going, my pieces of art, they're so great. Just beautiful.
You won't believe the people I've had in this banquet hall. I've had the greatest house of stereo. Hey, how is your friend, by the way? Is he doing well? No? Okay, well, anyways, back to my painting.
My banquet halls are canvas for the greatest names that have ever stepped foot in Viscerine. Like, that's that kind of guy. Right, he saw all that and he just goes, Nicomo, are these they're your friends? Oh, all right. Captain, send them to their bed chambers. Make sure they have the finest silks. Meanwhile, Shivers is like, my eye, eye.
Kill me.
And then Thalia is just like, And anyway, just bring up the deviled eggs and the sausage links. Thanks. Well, that's what we want for breakfast tomorrow. The aloof nature of Grand Duke Cellier, I just love.
He's the coolest rich guy ever. Okay,
he's the coolest rich guy ever. I don't know about that because when he takes a shit, I'm sorry. Anyway, anyways, but that was great. Thank you guys for your in-depth analysis while I provide my shit take analysis. We will move on over to our third and final segment, which is also our final chapter read through, which is other people's scores. And we start off with a quote. That's his place. Sajam's place. And we're like, excuse me? Who? Sajam is the chapter's way behind. Why are we worrying about Sajam? And then we realize Shanked is in the motherfucking building. Shanked is paying the little riffraff of the streets. You know, the chimney sweeps, the kids that will die in about 30 days because they don't have a union. Basically, he's smart. He's using the kids of the streets as his eyes and ears. Find out where Sajam hangs out. Now, we know from previous chapters with Mons and everything, Sajam hangs out in a certain spot. So Shank goes up there, and at first he kind of like talks to the guards. He's like, hey, I'm looking for Sajam. And they go, yeah, okay, cool. He's here, but do you have any weapons? And he says, of course I have weapons. I'm armed. With my wit. And
my quick wit could strike at any moment.
At this point, they're just like, "Oh God! All right, whatever. Come on, let's go meet Sajam. Let's go. We don't got time for this."
I just love, like, I can imagine him just saying, like, completely deadpan, and they're just like, "Yeah, whatever." I've heard this shit 1,000 times. Like,
oh, you think you're the clever guy,
huh? Funny guy, jokey. And then they go through the whole. They go through the building. Gets into the room where it's Sajam and a bunch of people, Sajam's closest advisors. Identifies Sajam. She goes, yep, that's me. And he goes, yeah, so do I know you? And Shanked says, no. So then Shazam says, stranger then? We don't really have a lot of strangers here, do we? So what can I do for you? And then Shanked does not hesitate at all. He goes, where's Monscaro Mercado? And then it's just like that record scratch. It's just everyone stops. They stop laughing. They just look and they go, and then Sajam goes, the Snake of Talons is dead, But Shank can feel like that people are moving around him. Right, he feels that people are grabbing for the weapons. He sees it, and he doesn't have time for this. He goes, look, you're alive. She's alive. She's alive. Shank goes, buddy, we both know she's alive. Come on, I just want to talk to her. That's it. I just want to have a conversation. And then there's this one card player at this table with Sajam and his people. He goes, who? And he stutters apparently. He goes, hold on, shit. That's this bastard. Think he is. And he tries to make a joke, but no one really pays him any mind. Shank then continues on. He goes, listen, just tell me where she is, please. Then no one's conscience needs to grow any heavier today. Now, you can try him, and if he has nothing, and you murder him, then easy peasy lemon squeezy. But if you're wrong, this is the last thing you do.
Yeah.
And that's what Sajam did not consider, because he goes, you know what?
Fuck you.
How about this? Because my conscience is pretty light all the way, anyway. So let's toss a coin for it. Heads, we kill you. But tails, we'll tell you where Mercado is, but then we'll kill you anyway. And then he flips the coin, and then we just, from Shank's perspective, everything just slows down by the nanosecond. And I'm not going to get into everything that occurs, but I'll just say if there's 15 people, not including Shanked, 13 die within 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
does terrible things to them
Yeah.
because he is Neo from the Matrix. Stops time, bullet time. He
Yeah.
does all that.
It's unclear if it's an exact ability or it's just something that all eaters can do because he's the only thing that we can see from. It's
Right.
and people who was like, it's a spoiler because you don't know he's an eater. He's obviously an eater. No one else can do this shit.
But I was gonna say, Harrison. Here's the thing: we've noticed, like from the first trilogy, right? We've seen at least a couple eaters, and they all move incredibly fast. Remember when Logan met that one dude in the palace?
I just meant because Shank specifically says like,
the clock. Boom.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. He specifically. I don't mean he stops time. I just think maybe he goes into like hyper focus mode. Yeah.
His perception.
I don't know.
Of time. Absolutely.
Yeah,
but I agree.
Yeah, but he also, for people wondering about that, like he obviously he wipes them all out and stuff, which is not a question. But I forgot what I was gonna say, so we'll just keep moving on. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, keep trying. Remember what you're gonna say about Shank. But yeah, so basically, what Shank does is he treats every person like fucking leaves of grass, just nothing, absolutely nothing. He splits, and this is without any weapons on Shanked, right? Like he's not doing anything. Yeah. He's just using his hands, but by moving,
he fights like Omni-Man. If you guys haven't seen him, he fights like Omni-Man. His body is the weapon. He just goes
through people like fucking butter, doesn't he?
He just walks into somebody.
And it's not even an inconvenience. He's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's over now.
Yep.
And now, are you going to tell me where they are? And it's like, yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. The only weapon that Shank uses, like an actual artificial weapon, is an arrow that someone shot from a flat bow. He catches it and then uses it to stab somebody's face in. And when I say stab somebody's face in, I mean fold it in on itself. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So, basically, though, all Sajam's it's not pretty. The first time you read it, you're like, holy shit, this is badass. But every single time after that, just the way I don't know. What we'll get into at the end of the chapter. But basically, he gets Sajam. He starts putting his finger in his shoulder, and it's like, you're gonna tell me where everybody's at. And Sajam, after a little bit of resistance, folds. Tells him everything he knows. Tells him, hey, there's a poisoner with them. Vitari's with them. A Northern beggar, but. So,
as Harrison alluded, he has Sajam dead to rights because he left him alive. Him and the stuttering guy. And he let him alive, run away. But he said, get the fuck out of here quick before I change my mind. But Shank would rather at least people live. We kind of see this in this read-through. And this is kind of terrifying if you're somebody looking at Shank walking down on you. He says, a man sleeps through most of his life, even when awake. You get so little time, yet still you spend it utterly oblivious, angry, frustrated, fixated on meaningless nothings. That drawer does not close flush with the front of my desk. What cards does my opponent hold, and how much money can I win from him? I wish I was taller. What will I have for dinner? For I am not fond of parsnips. It takes a moment like this. It takes a moment like this to jerk us to our senses, to draw our eyes from the mud to the heavens. Hold on. From the mud to the heavens, to root our attention in the present. Now you realize how precious is each moment. This is my gift to you. And Sajam goes, oh, Jesus Christ. And Shank does not like violence. He doesn't want to continue this. He goes, let's not fuck around anymore. Where's Mercado? And he even says, to give Sajam his credit, he's brave, right? So he goes for a belt, a knife in his belt, because even though Shank had hit Sajam in his arm, so rendered one arm useless, just broken, shattered. So with the other arm, Sajam reached for a knife in his belt. Now, Shank, at that point, is what Harrison might have mentioned if you didn't hear it. He just sinks a finger into the point of where your shoulder meets your chest, that little divot, your collarbone, but a little bit to the side of your collarbone, just right in that meat. And now Sajam's like, oh, Jesus Christ! And so then Shank just goes, I'm not playing, man. Where's Mercado? And he goes, all right. Viscerine. He gives up the goods. So he asks Sajam, who does she have with him? And he goes, "Or with Northman named Shivers, his guy named Friendly, a convict was from safety." Then he says, "A poisoner named Morvir from Westport. And in Sapani, a woman called Vitari, a woman who could get things done." And Shanked frowned. And Shanked goes over it verbally. He goes, "Mercado, Shivers, Friendly, Morvir, Vitari."
Yep.
That's the most I'll say about that.
Actually, Pacey delivers it exactly the same as he delivers the other names, which is very interesting.
How? How does it?
He says he pauses, but that's it. He goes, he goes to the name. Where's the names at? Yeah, Mikado, Shivers, Friendly, Morvir, Patari. Like he doesn't say with any inflection whatsoever. He just says the name.
So he does
there's a
wait
pause,
second.
but
yeah,
he does wait, but there's no inflection.
Okay, no inflection. Gotcha. Okay, and then he asks Sajam where they headed next, and he goes, "I'm not sure. I just know that she's looking for the 7 men that killed her brother. Peranti, maybe. Keep ahead of Orso's army. If she gets Ganmark, then maybe she'll go for Faithful Carpi next." And then Shank goes, "Okay, yeah, maybe she will." And he takes his finger out of Sajam's shoulder. And Sajam at this point goes, "Look, I can help you. I can help you find her." And Sajam goes, "Yeah, but you already did. You already helped me." And Sajam goes, "I have money." Shank just doesn't say anything. And at this point, Sajam, I think he's just confessing. He goes, "I planned on turning her into Orso sooner or later once the price was high enough." Nothing. Then Sajam continues, goes, "That doesn't make any difference, does it?" Nothing again. And then Sajam goes, "I told that bitch she'd be the death of me." Now here's where Shank goes, "You were right. I hope that is comfort." And he goes, Sajam goes, "Not really. I should have killed her." But Shank goes, "But you saw money to be made. Anyway, do you have anything to say?" And Sajam goes, "What? What do you mean?" And Shank goes, "Some people want to say things at the end. Do you?" Jesus Christ. And Sajam goes, "What are you?"
And I love this bit from Shanks. He's just so pensive here. He's like, "I have been many things. A student, a messenger, a thief, a soldier in old wars, a servant of great powers, an actor of great events. Now?" Shanks pulled an unhappy breath that gaped around the mangled corpses. Just hunched over. He's just... "Now it seems I am a man who settles other people's scores."
And that's the end of the chapter, boys. How would you rate it?
I actually don't like that. I really like his stuff, but I really like the fact that we've got like a villain, like a proper villain that's just like catching up to, because we know that he's hunting Monza.
Yeah, I'm gonna rate it a 2 and a knuckle. Because half a knuckle, a knuckle for the shit that Shank says, because Shank is so good at line delivery, and half a knuckle for first time readers. Because whenever I reread this chapter, guys, it's just probably one of the only chapters I reread and I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. I don't give a shit. Let's keep moving. Like I'm serious. Like
interesting.
I just don't care. Like it's so like I don't know. It's just like I don't know. It feels unnecessarily edgy to me, and I know that how Shanked is, so I don't hold it against him. But like it just feels just so empty. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna walk in here. Yeah, we already know what's gonna happen. He's gonna fuck these guys up. It's obvious. And then he fucks these guys up. He has some good lines. And the first time you read it, you're like, oh shit. But that's it. I just don't care after that.
I like the fact that on a surface level, it's like, his first chapter, he walks into Orso's hall and just fucking basically dominates the whole scene.
Mm-hmm.
It tells Orso what's what. I'm gonna charge this much, and I'm gonna track him down, and that's it. And then in this chapter, he goes up to Sir John's, which is basically the next person that we see after she gets thrown off the cliff. Hint, hint. And he basically just does the same thing. He just walks in, does exactly the opposite of, Monza had to send Shivers as a fucking proxy so that she wouldn't get seen. And then Shank just walks in and goes, oh yeah, where is she? And just fucks everybody up. I just love that kind of parallel there.
So what would you give it, George?
I reckon I get this. Like you said, Harrison, it is a lot of most of the fighting it's well written, but if it's just fighting and there's not really much stakes to it, that is just it, isn't it? It's just a cool factor, and if you've read it once, that's it. So maybe 4.
Maybe 4. 4? Okay. I will say, I heard what Harrison said. I hear you, but I will say, like, when you say, oh, you already know what's coming, even if you're a first-time reader, I will disagree with you don't, right? Because the only other mention of Shank that we know prior to this was when he meets Duke Corso, and he says, I do not kneel. Now, this is a moment where we talked about, like, what I just said with, like, you walk into with Sajam, and you're like, oh, you have all these badasses, and you don't know how to react, and how do you react? Orso, at that moment, didn't care because he was so upset about his son dying, right? So when Shank says something like, I do not kneel, it's like, okay, he's just maybe a very by the business, by the kind of the book hitman. You never know, right? But then the first time I'll be honest with you, the first time I read this chapter, I goes, oh, we have bullet time Max Payne motherfuckers. And I was like, oh, wait, that's right. He's probably an eater. Wait, but why is he involved? This created so much intrigue for me in the initial reading of this.
That's true.
I think it's very easy once you go through it, once you read and you know who Shanked is and all this stuff, then it's easy to be like, oh, this is just a throwaway.
Yeah.
But this is the building block to Shanked right here. I feel like the whole interaction he had before with Orso and that Chamberlain that was like, you must walk 10 spaces down before and then bend your knee, whatever. That fucking guy. No, this is where we're like, oh. So he could easily kill anybody within his vicinity, not necessarily by slowing down time, but by his perception of time and how he moves through it, right? So he could have done this shit with Orso, right? He didn't. And then, and he tried to save lives. He goes, I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this. Then they still try to kill him, which is just crazy. They're like, get him, boys! Whatever. So I really like this chapter. At the same time, as much as I like this chapter and like how much it illuminates on us on who Shanked is, even though we don't know anything about who Shanked is, I'm going to give it a 3 and a knuckle. But it's only because we just don't have that information. We just know this man is here to fuck shit up. So 3 and a knuckle for me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Well, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover The Fencing Master.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and we have a website. It's called circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast as it helps. Thank you all again for listening.
Should have been you.